Welcome to the Colts Squad Show. I'm your host, Derek Schultz, and I know it's not March, but survive in advance, fellas.
And I'm Zach Hicks, and this version of Jonathan Taylor is easily the best version we've ever seen of him in the NFL.
I'm Jake Arthur, and a win is a win, baby. Chalk it.
I'm Alan Pinkett, former Oiler, and somewhere inside that locker room, somebody's singing Gloria Gaynor's song, I Will Survive.
Colts Nation, rise up. It's the Colts Squad. Everything Indianapolis Colts every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Circle City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. It's time to squad up. The Colts Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Colts Squad Show, and thanks as always for making us your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Colts Network. This episode brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. I'm Derek Schultz, a bit of sports talker in Indy for a long time. I'm joined by Notre Dame legend and former NFL running back Alan Pinkett, and you everydayers, of course, know Bull Zach Hicks. And we get a special treat because I was running behind. Jake Arthur is here as well. He is done with his post-game duties from Lucas Oil Stadium as we are recapping a close shave for the Colts, but they escape with a win. A win is a win is a win. 31-27 over Arizona today to move to 5-1. We'll talk about a very sloppy defensive performance, but an encouraging one still for the offense as they keep humming along. And the Colts surviving really when I think overall, I think we would all agree that this was not the best version of themselves that we've seen so far through 6 weeks. We'll look into Daniel Jones's performance, a little bit of an uneven day for him. Week 6 studs and duds on both sides of the ball. And I have a feeling that our studs category is going to be filled with one unit and our duds category is going to be filled with the other unit. If you guys at home watch that game, you probably know what I mean. And another key injury issue, which popped up at the last second. And you're thinking to yourself, God, can this be possible? Why are we having to go through this again? We'll discuss Charvarius Ward coming up later on in the program as well. But Zach, let's kind of start there. Again, I'm actually going to lean optimistic here. I think it would be easy to get on, and we'll talk about the warts and we'll talk about the defense. And it was, that unit did not cloak itself in glory today. But if you're not going to have your A game to still come through and survive a game effort from a team. Look, Arizona, yeah, I know they lost the Titans last week. That's not the Raiders, right? That's not the Dolphins. It's a competent and decent Arizona team. And I understand they had their backup quarterback and all of that, so I don't want to puff them up too much. But I think overall, you just take the wins as you've come. We've seen the Colts home letdown games before, all of us. I mean, they have at least one of those seemingly every year. And while it looked like they were heading in that direction today, thankfully they were able to avoid it.
Yeah, and look, in the NFL, this was kind of more of just a snap back to reality of what the NFL is. Like you're not going to win every game by 30 in the NFL, no matter who you're playing against. So this is more of a common type of game you're going to get. And the difference between the good and the bad teams are the ones that can pull through at the end of the games and which teams can just convert in the red zone late to pull ahead in these ones. So this was just more of a normal type of Sunday game that you're going to get. You're not your 30-point victories and your 40-point victories and stuff like that. And the Colts were able to prevail in this game. And I think it says a lot for just how well this team is coached and just how well the operation is for the Colts, where they had a lot of stuff happen pre-game, from 2 injuries happening, one being the most important player on the defense going down mere, half an hour before the game started. And they were able to bounce back and still get a win in this one. I know they were going against a lot of backups on the Cardinals offense, and we'll talk about what the issues were for the Colts defense in this one. But at the end of the day, the Colts offense put up 31 points against a top 10 scoring defense, the best scoring defense in the NFC coming into this game. The Colts are averaging 33.5 points per game scored at home this year, including 2 of those games being against the Broncos and the Cardinals now. This Colts offense is going to win them a lot of games. And look, again, you can say that they didn't do a lot of things you need to do to win football games. They had a bad turnover from their quarterback in this one. They had some issues on defense that led to a lot of scores and big plays. But at the end of the day, the Colts got their victory, and I don't care how ugly or pretty it looks. I'm just caring what it's going to look like here come January when we're looking at the playoff picture. We're counting this as a win and not as a loss, So winning cures all, as we always say on this show. It's kind of our slogan for this show. And moving to 5-1 with a big opportunity to win 2 of the next 3 and get into a really big lead here in the AFC going into that final stretch of 7 games. I think is the end goal right now for the Colts. So they got the win. We can move on to the Chargers and go from there.
That's a really battle-tested team, man. I mean, on the surface, the injuries pregame, it is what it is. But Shane Steichen felt the need to kind of rally the troops and get everybody back in focus, because that was a rattled locker room when that happened. Anthony Richardson may be the backup quarterback, but he is loved in that locker room. Charvarius Ward, everybody knows what he means to that team. He is also highly regarded in there. So that was a blow to morale to this team before the game even started. And so they were able to get things back together and pull out a win. I mean, the defense, I don't want to say it looked how you would expect it to, because I do think the pass rush could have made things a whole lot easier if it existed through large chunks of this one. But overall, like Zach said, this was good competition. And, you looked at Daniel Jones' performance specifically, and he started out really hot, and then just the middle of the game was a lot of meh. There was a lot of punts by both sides. But then he goes and scores. He leads 2 touchdown drives that the Colts had to have in the fourth quarter, including the go-ahead score. And then that defense that was much maligned all throughout the game, they come out and they get the one stop that they absolutely had to have in order for the team to win. And again, it's ugly, but it's a win. You know what I mean?
Well, you guys have heard me say it time and time again. There's no bad teams in the NFL. There's only teams with bad records. And on any given Sunday, a team can rise up. And these guys are pros. And that's why they make the money they make, because they're the best in the world at what they do. And nobody here heard of Zay Jones, but he dropped 80 yards on that defense. I wasn't familiar with Trey McBride, but he looked every bit as good as Tyler Warren. So there's talent that abounds, and sometimes what happens when you start to lose is teams will start to look to make a change, go in a different direction, maybe cut your ass. So the only retribution you have is to show up on the field and play. And so I was not surprised at all that the Cardinals came out and played hard. And if you're a backup quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, you're looking to get a starting role somewhere. What better stage than to go against a team that only has one loss? So the Cardinals had every reason to play hard, and they almost pulled it off. But yeah, I think the Colts, I've said that they are a mature team, and they showed it. And when someone gets injured, even though they are beloved in the locker room, you still have to go with that next man up theory. And if you're not that next man up, you do what you can personally to make the team better. I always talk about the time when Warren Moon got hurt on our team. So collectively, we all just decided we need to play better. And unfortunately, doing that, the guy who was a backup guy named Cody Carlson, we got him $3 million because everybody started saying, oh, well, he's just as good as Warren. Hell no, he wasn't as good as hell. We just stepped our game up. But I think the Colts did that today, and they were a mature team because they knew not to get frustrated, because they had to punt a couple of times, which is weird for them. But when it really counted, they were able to go down and put points on the board. So I liken them to a modern day Tiger Woods. They can beat you with their B game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a great way to put it, where, the NFL is not about just like everyone needs to have this perfectly complete game to win in the NFL. There are some games where your defense carries the slack, some games where your offense carries the slack. And I think we got to the point in like that middle of the third quarter where it was like, look, we're not going to get the stops we need on defense in this game. It's just not going to happen unless we get a bounce to go our way. So the offense had to turn it up a notch. And you have to give credit to Shane Steichen, Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, all those guys for taking that challenge, turning it up a notch, and again, shredding one of the best defenses in football that entire second half. The Cardinals are a really competitive team. They've lost 4 games this year by a combined total of 9 points. In a lot of those games, they've had leads going to the fourth quarter like they had today, right? I think they were leading going to the fourth quarter today, or it was at least a tie game going into the fourth. They are a feisty team that they fight for every inch in the NFL. So they are a tough team to play against. They're not the Raiders. They're not, the Dolphins. They're not the Titans. I know they lost the Titans, but they're not the Titans. That was just a crazy game last week for them. And I think this shows a lot of just the grit that the Colts have of a team. One thing that Jake and I said all week on our regular show about this game was just the difference is going to be the Colts just being a mature football team that is ready for the moment. And the Cardinals just haven't shown that this year. And while I think the Cardinals actually exchanged a couple good punches, and then when they got into the fourth quarter was still moving the ball pretty well, ultimately it came down to Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones just being ready for the moment and being calm, poised, going down there, drawing up open plays, delivering good shots down the field to wide open players, and then getting those touchdowns they needed. So I know we're going to talk more about Daniel Jones in segment 2, but I think the way the Colts responded in that second half on offense to pick up the slack that their defense was leaving out there, that's the mark of a good football team. I mean, we look around the league at the best teams in the league. Even if you have a top defense, you're not going to hold teams down to 10 points every single week. There's going to be some weeks where an opposing play caller just has the best of your defense and vice versa. So your other unit needs to pick up the slack. And what we saw today was the Colts offense at home is just a well-oiled machine. They picked up the slack, and even against a very good, physical, strong Cardinals defense, they ripped them apart in the second half.
And your defense can be strong, but one of the things I admire about this offense is they don't give up on the running game. I've been on teams where you're just gaining 2 yards, 1 yard, 3 yards. They're like, put that play on the shelf. We're not going to use it again. But in the Colts offense, they know the more you run, all those 2 and 3 yard duds are eventually going to bust. And the running game over the course of a game is going to wear that defense down more than anything else. And that's why, I think the Colts are blessed to have a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who always has his feet moving, who's heavy enough to run over backs, who is not going to get injured by people hitting him because he's so thick. He is basically the knockout punch for this star-studded offense.
Yep. Colts,
another thing
Colts
I think about the rush offense, Alan, is that Daniel Jones is not the guy that he was in 2022 moving with his legs, but he's been opportunistic about being able to escape or make a big play. I look at that scoring drive that tied the game there in the fourth quarter, and he started things off with a 17-yard run. And then that's before he hits Pierce and before he hits Downs. And then boom, before you know it, it's tied. And it feels like, Zach, he's had a couple of those this year. I mean, I go back to the Tennessee game. That set the tone for the whole game when he escaped from what looked like a sure sack and turned that into a 15, 16, whatever ended up yard gainage it was and turned into a Colts touchdown drive.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into Jones here because I know we're going to get to him after the break, and I know Jake had something he wanted to say there. But one thing I do want to clarify about Jones is for anyone saying like, oh, he's gotten back to 2022 Jones. He is not 2022 Daniel Jones. He is playing at a much, much higher level than what he did that year with the Giants. A lot of his production in that 2022 season with the New York Giants was a lot of rushing production from him and a lot of yards after catch by receivers and running backs, especially Saquon Barkley in the backfield. This is just really good quarterback play. Like even when he has bad moments, so he had the bad interception to start this game, we're seeing him bounce back and do some really good things for this Colts team. Like this is not like 2022 Jones was fine. Like a good game manager quarterback that moved the ball forward, ran with his legs a lot and got the Giants into the playoff position. This Daniel Jones is a legitimate top 10 quarterback in football, the way he's playing. And I say this as, again, I have to say this every single week. I did not even somewhat believe in him coming into the season. And he's made a huge believer out of me to the point where I'm saying that he's just been an outstanding football player this year. So, yeah, Daniel Jones has been great for the Colts.
Yeah, we questioned what his impact would be on the run game because with Anthony Richardson, it opened up so many things for Jonathan Taylor because defenses had to kind of pick their poison. But, Jones, the method throughout this season so far, Zach, as you've mentioned, they pass early on, and then they kill it with Jonathan Taylor in the second half. And Jones is making that possible because he's been so efficient. Now, again, he threw the pick. He had some lumps here today. But overall, he is keeping defenses honest and making them able to run the ball. And speaking of running the ball, they ran for 150 yards on one of the best run defenses today, averaged over 5 yards per carry when Arizona wasn't even allowing 4 yards per carry coming into this. So the Colts, I think because of how the defense looked, it made everything kind of ugly, and they punted more often, and they just looked a little bit more like a normal offense than the buzzsaw offense we're used to seeing. But, I mean, at the end of the day, whatever their strategy that they want to accomplish week to week, it kind of came to fruition today.
Yeah, I mean, the offense just keeps on rolling, and a lot of that has to do with Jones, who, even though maybe the middle portion of the game wasn't the best, started strong and finished strong, which is what you want your quarterback to do, especially the latter. We'll talk more about Daniel Jones's performance and the offense overall when we come back following a Colts 31-27 win over the Cardinals on the Colts Squad Show. This portion of the Colts Squad Show brought to you by Mizzen and Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is that most dress clothes not only don't check any of those boxes, sometimes they only check one of them. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, they feel hot, and high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabric, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they perfected it ever since. I'm a guy who likes comfy dress shirts. And trust me, guys, these are ones that you're going to like. Moisture wicking, that's important for a sweaty dude like me. I'm just putting all my cards out on the table here. They're wrinkle resistant. They're machine washable as well. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear with Mizzen and Main. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, MAIN.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. This portion of the show also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow with Supply House. They're the best in the business when it comes to plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. They have over 280,000 of them. Their real-time inventory and their honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Boom, Supply House has you covered. They have next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And we're back on the Locked On Colts Squad Show. Thanks so much for joining us following Indy's 31-27 win over Arizona. And guys, we were just talking about Daniel Jones, kind of bookending his performance. You start out strong, have the drive, the march right down the field, and thinking, all right, this is going to be an easy afternoon. Maybe I can go run some errands. You're thinking the Raiders game, you're thinking the Dolphins game, you're thinking whatever else. And then, of course, it was much tighter and much closer than that. But, I wanted to focus on the last two drives of the game. Jones goes 6 for 7. And the Colts they needed touchdowns on both of those. The defense gave up a field goal and then were able to get a turnover on downs, but really you weren't wanting to be in a situation where you had to trust your defense with the game on the line. And instead, because the Colts scored touchdowns in both of those, you felt like, okay, well, we're in a situation here where we're in the driver's seat. You're in control of the game instead of kind of coming from behind. And I just think that's where, it's funny, Jake, a lot of the talk about Daniel Jones was that, okay, game manager, if you have the lead, if you don't make him win you the game, you're fine. He's okay, but he's not going to win you the game. He's not going to march down the field, get a game-tying touchdown drive. He's not going to get a game-winning touchdown drive. That's not Daniel Jones. We've watched him for 6 years, right? And he's proving all of those things wrong by what he's done this year. I mean, he's been good with a lead. He's been good from behind. He's been good basically everywhere that the Colts have needed him.
Yeah, I don't really appreciate that call out to me and Zach so much there.
I was saying the same thing. We were all saying the same.
No, but I mean, that's 2 fourth quarter comeback victories for Jones this year in times where they had to have points. And regardless of how he was performing up to that, he came up big with those. And, it of course goes hand in hand with Shane Steichen as well. I think they just went back to playing what was working for them earlier in the game. Tyler Warren bailing them out, Josh Downs winning those quick little matchups and then creating more yards after the catch, getting first downs when they needed to have them. The officiating helped both sides at times. It kind of worked against both sides as well, but it was the natural rhythm of a game, but the Colts going back to what they felt comfortable would work. And then, of course, in the second half, Jonathan Taylor he's not from this planet. He is so good. And I think Zach tweeted out he's Offensive Player of the Year so far. And it's like, yeah, who else is? You don't have like a juggernaut option for MVP right now. And then he is head and shoulders above the other running backs at the moment. So yeah, like Jonathan Taylor's putting a stamp on it the same way that you should consider Daniel Jones among top 5 or 6 for MVP right now, legitimately. But yeah, this team just came back and it's just so different from the past because they always found ways to overthink things or beat themselves or make a costly mistake at the worst times. And they're just not doing that. They've actually become like a really clutch team, which we're just not used to seeing around here from a quarterback you mentioned, and Daniel Jones, who was not really thought of as a clutch quarterback.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing with Daniel Jones this year are 2 things. One, his performance under pressure this year has just been fantastic. And that's a Daniel Jones we've never even seen in his whole life. Going back to college, going back to his best years with the Giants, he's never been great under pressure. But this year, he's a completely different man in that regard. He has just been very comfortable, very confident against pressure. He knows where the ball needs to go. So even if he's getting hit, he's delivering these. I mean, the throw to Pierce, I believe he took a hit on his throw to Pierce up the seam, was the best throw of the day. And that's what got the Colts one of those touchdowns there. And then he had another great throw to Pierce, had a couple good throws to Warren under pressure as well. The throw to Mo Alley-Cox to get like a 20-yard gain where he got hit as he threw it early in the game. Like, he's playing extremely well under pressure this year. And the other one is just the lack of panic in his game in general, the ability to learn on the fly throughout these games. I mean, the horrible interception on the naked bootleg. I don't know why he threw that ball. The linebacker has so much depth. You have to use your legs there. What do we see him do later in the game on a naked bootleg? He runs it. He runs it because he should have run it earlier. He learned from that moment, said, I'm going to take the yards that are in front of me. And then we saw another naked boot later where he slipped and he threw it around the defender to Tyler Warren for a 20-yard gain. So even in game, we're seeing this improvement. We're seeing him, even if he throws a pick early in the game, we're seeing him bounce back and not let it spiral, not let it turn into all of a sudden he's Giants Daniel Jones again. No, he's still Colts Daniel Jones. He just made one mistake and coming back and still leading touchdown drives. So he's just playing like a veteran quarterback at a different level that we've ever seen from him. Just in terms of the lack of panic, just in terms of just how comfortable and confident he looks at all times. And it's getting to the point, like I said on the last squad show, where it's like, it's almost boring to talk about Daniel Jones because he's just doing what you expect now every week. He's getting into that like Andrew Luck territory where it's like, do we really have to talk about him? Like, we know he's going to be good for us each week because he's performing each and every week, even his worst games. Like, if you want to say this is one of his worst games of the year, that's fine because the other ones have been so great. But when the Colts need him most, he came out there and delivered. So yeah, I was not a believer whatsoever coming to the year, but Daniel Jones has just been fantastic for the Colts. And I really can't say enough on how big he was late in this game. You know, the difference between the good teams and the great teams in the NFL are the quarterbacks that can steal games, the quarterbacks that can just deliver when the game matters the most and steal wins for your team. And in that fourth quarter, he stole a win for the Colts. Like, I'm not saying that they certainly deserve to lose this game, but he was the better quarterback in the fourth quarter, and that was the difference in this game. So Daniel Jones was awesome. I thought he was great today, especially in that second half.
Well, if 22 out of 30 for 212 yards, two TDs is a bad game, I'll take that every time.
Three TDs, ran for one too.
Yes, that's right. 3 total TDs.
Yeah.
And I did have my doubts But my doubts were because I didn't appreciate him coming into Notre Dame Stadium and beating Notre Dame when he was a senior at Duke. Duke is never supposed to beat Notre Dame. And after he beat Duke, I knew, okay, this kid is going to be a first round draft pick. That's sort of how it works. You come up, you beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, your draft status gets elevated. And, I think what he's done is he's logged all those bad things in his memory, sort of like all these other quarterbacks that we see having success, and put them there as learning experiences. So if you get that chance again, you're not going to make that same mistake. And so he has been very efficient. And you talked about that throw to Alec Pierce, who I love to call the Labrador Retriever. Um, because there's nothing more important in the world than him getting that ball. And
Labrador receiver.
Receiver.
There
Okay,
you
there
go.
we
There's
go.
the dad joke we needed.
Yeah.
Guilty. Yeah.
right up my alley. But that throw was, from a fundamental standpoint, that was one of the finer throws I saw all of today. Watching a handful of games. So he definitely has the talent. He's got confidence, and we talked about, does confidence breed success, or does success breed confidence? He's got them both now. I don't know which one came first, but he's got it now. But he's in a situation now where his supporting cast is so good, and they're making him look good, but he's also making them look good because he's getting the ball, he's placing the ball in the right spot. And I do recall a throw that was kind of low to Tyler Warren that ended up being incomplete. But then when you look at the replay and you see the defender come in the screen on the slow motion, you understand why he threw it low, so he wouldn't get his tight end killed. So he's doing those little things, those detail things that are making him good. And you know how in the beginning of the year we talked about if the Colts had won four of those one score games that they lost, they went into the playoffs. It takes a mature team to win one score games. I'll just use it as an example. Last year's Chiefs. How many one-score games, real close games, did they win, and what did that get them? The Super Bowl, a Super Bowl invite. So even though you got your butt kicked in the Super Bowl, still getting there. I know Buffalo is still proud. When I was playing, they went 4 times and got their butt kicked every time, but they still went. So they got a second place ring.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, winning the one-score games, we always say it's volatile and it's hard to predict, but one thing that is sustainable year over year is like teams like the Eagles, teams like the Chiefs, they win those one-score games. So we can keep saying that they're going to take a step back, but even when they do, they end up still winning like 10, 11, 12 games because they are those type of teams. And yeah, Daniel Jones just performed all day. I do want to give a shout out though to the Colts offense, where I just couldn't cut it as an offensive coordinator in the league. I realized, because I'd be too, like, the second something's not working, I'd want to just tear it all up and start over again and be like, you know what, my 12 and 13 personnel isn't working. We're going empty the rest of the game, because that's just how I am. I get frustrated. I'm like, we're going to the easy stuff. But with the Colts, man, they came out early, 12, 13 personnel, a lot of heavier sets, a lot of plays where it was Ogletree and Moelle Cox on the field because they were running heavy, 13 personnel with Tyler Warren at fullback. And even when it wasn't working in that middle stretch of the game, they stuck with it. They stuck with those heavier personnel sets, and it really clicked late in the game. Clicked on those naked bootlegs late. It clicked on getting those post shots to Pierce and getting some quick hitters to Downs. I know Downs was probably more in like the 11 and 12 personnel stuff, but they stuck with their game plan all the way. And it really opened up in the second half for them. So credit to Shane Steichen for trusting his advanced scouts, trusting what they had prepared for the week. And when it did run into that rut there in like that second quarter, not falling away from it, just continuing on as the game went on, continuing on the Jonathan Taylor train, as Alan says every week, where they stick with the run game. They stuck with it, and Taylor did his thing. But I do appreciate that the Colts, they have their plan of attack. And even if it's not working for a little stretch of the game, they don't panic like I would and go, all empty, all receivers on the field, no running backs, no tight ends. because it takes a lot to stick with it during that. And I think the Colts deserve the credit for that.
Yeah, that trust has been earned, right? Because that's how good the offense has been. So we're almost in a position where you're watching at home, and even when something doesn't appear to be working, you just sort of trust the process, if you will, because that process has been working out for them. But I wanted just one last thought on Daniel Jones, and this really stuck with me, Zach. I saw that you tweeted this earlier today. In order to be a real contender in the NFL, you have to have a quarterback that can steal you games late. And it's amazing that Jones is in that category. And it almost reminds me, I know we have IU football Colts people on this show. It's almost like you have to forget about everything that you previously knew about IU football. You definitely have to do that, right? You just throw it all out. I wonder if we're reaching the point where you just have to forget about everything that you thought you knew about Daniel Jones and just kind of treat it only as future facing now, because it just feels like everything about him, everything about the Hoosiers, it's just different, man. It's not the same. It's not what you saw a year, 2 years, God, for IU, 100 years. I mean, it's been a century of being terrible. And now with where they are, and it's sometimes that happens in sports where you just have to kind of toss and burn all of the receipts.
Yeah, 29 points against the Broncos defense. The Broncos defense to get 40 yards passing today against, I know the Jets are terrible, but like they're a defense to get 40 yards passing in a game. They're a pretty darn good defense. Colts dropped 29 on them, 31 on a very good Cardinals defense, the number one scoring defense in the NFC coming into today. The Rams defense should have been in the 30s in that game if it weren't for drop touchdowns and stuff. Like, I just don't know what more people need to see from Daniel Jones at this point. Again, no bigger hater out there than me coming into the year, and I'm fully bought in on what he's doing. I just follow what my eyes are telling me. My eyes are saying he's playing some really good football.
They almost had 500 yards against the Broncos.
Yeah,
crazy.
The offense is just a machine right now, especially at home. They're just not going to be slowed down at home.
Yeah.
Some familiar faces were studs this week, while the defense turned in some dud performances. We're talking studs and duds when we come back on the Colts Squad Show. This portion of the show brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Daniel Jones hooking up with the Labrador receiver himself, Alec Pierce, for a 26-yard catch in the fourth quarter to set up the game-tying score. It just felt like a play that shifted things back on Indy's side. You know, Allen, a former player, talks about the importance of getting the momentum back on your side. It just felt like ever since then, the Colts were in control of that game, at least on the offensive side of the ball. They rode that wave and, of course, ended up getting the go-ahead touchdown, and then they survive in a 31-27 win. It's ended up being the difference in the game. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. And we're back on the Colts Squad Show. Welcome back. Once I get everybody actually on here on the screen, I'm Derek Schultz alongside the Locked On Colts duo of Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks. Alan Pinkett as well, the most accomplished football player by far of the four-person group today. Former Notre Dame legend and Houston Oilers running back, as well as we're recapping the Colts 31-27 win over the Cardinals. You know, I think the studs category is pretty self-explanatory. So did you guys want to start with it? We've done a lot of optimism so far. Let's go ahead and, we're halfway through the show now. Let's go ahead and talk about the warts. Zach, where do you want to start duds-wise? Because I think you have a couple to choose from.
Yeah, I think this was the first game of the year where Lou Anarumo was just outcoached by the opposing coach out there. And a lot of people were saying, where was the pass rush? Why was everything so terrible out there? Well, really what happened, and this is a very simplistic way to break it down, but the main issue that happened today is Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals, noticed how weak the Colts secondary was with their absences at corner, especially with Charvarius Ward being out. And they ran max protect on a lot of these plays. It was 3 receivers versus 7 defensive players in the back end. And outside of the Colts safeties, they didn't really have a good cover guy back there. And he was trusting those 3 receivers to get open against 7. And Lou Anarumo struggled to adjust to that. So for as much as we want to put on the pass rush being like the pass rush wasn't able to get home, there were 7 blockers back there against your 4 rushers. So for me, what I would have done, again, in hindsight and watching from home, you got to blitz. And that, like, look, at the end of the day, you got to blitz at that. If they're going to keep 7 guys into block, you got to bring more pressure. You got to bring more diversity of pressure. And even if it leaves your Jonathan Edwards and your other guys on islands, force Jacoby Brissett to make a good throw, down the field. Don't give him 6 seconds in the backfield to find a tight end that's breaking free underneath. Or at least if you're going to have 7 guys covering 3, double some people up in man coverage. I just think there were better ways to approach that attack, and I feel like the Colts were just woefully underprepared for the possibility that that's what the Cardinals were going to do in this game. Which, again, you have to give credit to a guy like Petzing, who just called a fantastic game. I mean, look what Jacoby Brissett was able to do against this Colts defense, and we can say like, oh, the Colts were missing Charvarius Ward, their most important player, but look at who the Cardinals are rolling out there on offense. Jacoby Brissett, Michael Carter, Bam Knight. Who were their receivers by the end of the game? Zay Jones and
Michael Wilson.
And Michael Wilson, that was the name, Michael Wilson. So, for everything we want to say about the Colts secondary being shorthanded, the Cardinals were very shorthanded on offense. Yeah. I just think Lou Anarumo needed to adjust better in that second half, and he just unfortunately didn't do it. You need to just do something else. The 4-man rush with dropping 7 against the 3 receivers just wasn't working. And I don't when it comes to the cornerback play, right? I think Jonathan Edwards got picked on a lot in this game. And Alan and I were talking right before we jumped on. It's the difference between an experienced corner and an inexperienced corner, where Edwards, I think, was right there on every single catch. His hand was in there on every single catch. But an experienced corner breaks that ball up. An experienced corner finds a way to separate man from ball, and that's where Edwards really struggled. But yeah, the bigger issue is probably the linebackers just not covering anything in there, which again, it's hard because the Cardinals did such a great job of bringing 6 offensive linemen on the field to do those max protect passing plays. And you don't want to put dime personnel against 6 offensive linemen because then they can run all over you. So they were bringing 6 offensive linemen on the field to keep the Colts linebackers out there and then throwing at the linebackers. It was just yes, not having Charvarius Ward is a big part of this, but Lou Anarumo and the Colts defensive staff just really got outcoached, and they just didn't have the talent on defense to overcome how outcoached they were today. So you're happy that you survived a game like this, but there's got to be some soul searching after this, where it's we got to figure out how we can adjust to situations like this, because having liabilities at linebacker and coverage is going to open up teams doing more of this max protect stuff. And then if we obviously don't have the corners on the outside to cover these guys, then teams are going to do this a lot going forward. So yes, I do think the pass rush could have been better, but I think more of the issue in this game was just the Colts not adjusting to what the Cardinals did. The Cardinals basically daring the Colts to keep 2 linebackers on the field at all times and testing these young corners. And they just didn't have the talent to make up for the audible, basically, that the Cardinals called against them.
It's crazy because yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I didn't pick up the Max Pro, but that's a great observation, because what happens in a situation like this is you spend so much time scouting the other team that you got to scout yourself sometimes,
Right.
and you got to see what's working and what's not working. And so here's the thing. It's on film now. So every team in the league, when they play the Colts, they saw the success the Cards had. They're going to use that same program when they go against the Colts. So you better come up with some alternatives. And I'm sure he didn't want to commit to a max blitz and really leave his corners on an island.
Right.
Hopefully they get Charvarius back next week and at least have one guy out there that can cover. But it's a great lesson, and it's one of those where you're fortunate to get the win, but you scout yourself and you figure out what you need to do to make an impact defensively.
It's crazy because last week Cardinals fans were wanting Drew Petzing run out of town, their offensive coordinator, and just also me overhearing, people with the Cardinals media and stuff around the building today. Fans are also calling for Jacoby Brissett to be the quarterback now. I think Jonathan Gannon was even asked if Kyler Murray is their starting quarterback. So the Colts defense did allow the narratives to shift in a couple different ways for the Cardinals offense. But yeah, it's I almost feel like I want to protect Jonathan Edwards in this one. You know what I mean? It's like you're an undrafted rookie was thrust into 60 or 70 plays essentially 45 minutes or an hour before the game happens. You think you're going to have Charvarius Ward, but instead you have an undrafted rookie from Tulane by way of Indiana State. Not
he was a rotational corner at Tulane last year, by the way. He's had a great camp and he's got great traits, but yeah, he just wasn't ready for the moment.
I can't totally like he looked exactly like you would think. I mean, Arizona's receivers aren't awesome. And, Marvin Harrison Jr. went out of this one pretty early as well. But yeah, the linebackers were one of the most glaring issues. And it's like, yeah, Zaire Franklin and Jermaine Pratt you're going to be able to pick on them on that short stuff inside the sticks. That's where Jacoby Brissett is at home anyways. You know what I mean? So it kind of fell right into the personnel that the Cardinals actually did have available to them. I did think they did pretty well against the run overall, though, obviously. That was some hits and misses, but yeah, it kind of went how you would expect it to. They got to get some guys back. Like Jalen Carlisle, I hope that Jalen Carlisle is everything they thought he was going to be, for them to neglect the linebacker position as badly as they did this offseason. Otherwise, that's going to be the position that annually we all yell about, and Chris Ballard didn't address. I mean, I don't want to totally pile on Ballard because he's done some masterful things this year, but did we not complain about linebacker all year and say, hey, you don't have anyone in coverage other than Carlisle? You don't have any competition for Carlisle. And then Carlisle has spent like 5 minutes healthy this entire calendar year.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you this, I felt a little worried when I saw Zaire Franklin split out wide with the running back, because I remember back in my days,
you and everybody felt worried.
If I had a linebacker on me, oh my God, I was licking my chops. I'm gonna make you look so bad, So credit to Zaire Franklin, for making plays, or just Jacoby Brissett being off by a little bit, because usually a running back wins that competition 11 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where the Colts were fortunate, but yeah, that probably needs to be addressed too. How do you address that? Dime protection?
Yeah, I think the big thing for the Colts, again, they should have either thrown some more blitzes in there just to really get after him, or I think it should have just been more like trap coverage, or more like double teams on key. Like, hey, if they're going to keep throwing at Jonathan Edwards, let's, instead of having the safety like over the middle of the field covering like the seams or whatever, let's go too high and keep one over top of Edwards so Edwards can play more aggressive underneath, and then we have that protection over the top. Instead, we're leaving. I mean, the first 3rd and 17 conversion, it was Edwards versus Trey McBride, and McBride had the whole left side of the field to himself with no safety over the top against an undrafted rotational corner from Tulane. Like, this is
former
where we
Sycamore too. Make sure you get that in there too, Zach.
Yeah.
Like,
we
we got to be a little bit better there, I think, with that call. I understand what Lou was trying to do. We got the Ashton Doolin blitz in there, which was great. But I think we need to have a little bit better of a play call for that there. So we'll see what how they change. But real quick, though, before we get out of studs and duds, because I just have been wanting to talk about him all episode here. Jonathan Taylor, I know we talked about him a little bit throughout this. The level he is playing at is unreal. Maybe he was just more forward explosive in 2021, and he had all the touchdowns and the gaudy stats that year. But this is the best running back performance I've seen from him. Like not just this game, this whole season. Like, he is playing at a level that is unreal right now. Like, he is so hard to tackle. And Alan can speak to this more so than I can, but we talk about hidden yardage a lot in the NFL. And like Josh Downs, I put a whole video up last week that Josh Downs is the king of hidden yardage when it comes to receiver play. But Jonathan Taylor turning 1 yard gains into 7 yard gains, turning -3 yard gains into 4 yard gains. Like, this is the key to the Colts offense. It's the most important aspect besides Daniel Jones, is Jonathan Taylor's ability to just keep moving that ball forward. And then he still gives you the big plays too. I mean, we even go to the catching. He's been the best catching of his career too. That catch he had today, that should have been a 1 yard gain, turned into a 13 yard gain in the flat. Like, it is unreal how good he is playing right now. It is a different level of running back. And I thought, like, the way Derrick Henry's played the last couple of years was on another level and stuff like that. But Taylor's doing it in all phases. He looks strong. He looks fast. He looks nimble. He's making guys miss in the backfield and getting positive yards. I mean, I can't say enough about Jonathan Taylor. We've always said for the last couple of years that he's been a superstar player, but this year he has been a superstar player for the Colts. And he is honestly, he's got as much to do with the Colts' success as Daniel Jones does this year.
Well, it's all about staying on the field. And if you are a detriment to the team when it comes to receiving, that's the less you're going to be on the field. So you got to teach yourself how to catch. And I remember early in my career, I was okay at receiving, but I really put the work in to understand how to catch the ball, because you know why? It keeps you on the field. And if you're on the field, you're able to make more plays. And if you're able to make more plays, you gain more confidence, and they're going to throw to you more. So to me, it's all about being able to stay on the field, being an every down back. Who else said that? Didn't Edgerrin James say that? He didn't say he was a running back. He said he was an every down back. And so it's the more you can do, the more valuable you'll be. And if you can do it receiving as well as running, then so be it. And good things happen when you keep your legs moving and your knees going upward, and have good forward body lean. And those are things just fundamentally that he has that keeps him getting extra yards. And some of those hidden yards, they take a toll on the defense, because this dude is heavy. He's not some little scat back running in there. He's actually heavy, leaning on you. And if you're a defensive back, you don't want any part of that.
Can I fit in one more stud, guys? I understand that this is a Colts show, but this guy's tied to the Colts. Jacoby Brissett's been in the league 10 years now. You know what I mean? Like good for Jacoby Brissett. Honestly, there's a reason why he's played on 6 NFL teams in the last 6 years, right? And he was never. I think in the immediate post Andrew Luck world, you wanted the next girl to be, see, that's my new girlfriend. She's better than the old one. You know what I mean? Like, I think people wanted Brissett to be something that he just wanted. They got out to that 5-2 start. People were talking about him. Oh, he's MVP. Like, he was never anywhere close to that. But at the end of the day, good for him. He's made a really nice NFL career for himself, being exactly what he is today. Always ready, and in a pinch, if you need him to try to win one game, he can either do it or get you really close to doing it. And I think he played tremendously today. And I thought that he deserved to be on our stud category, even though obviously this is the Colts squad show and he's not a Colt.
Yeah, we could say that because the Colts won. Yeah, the Colts won.
Exactly.
So
There we go. Yeah,
no chance we'd be saying that darn Jacoby. But I will say this. I was a little nervous coming to this game because Jacoby, with his last 6 stops, he's either been like a top 15 quarterback in the league with them or like barely rosterable. And I was like, this might be one of the ones where he's like a legit quarterback because Petzing is such a good OC, in my opinion. I didn't even know Cardinals fans were trying to run him out of town until Jake said it on this, because I think he's awesome. So I was a little nervous that he was the backup there. I mean, he's one of the best backups in football. He's a very good quarterback. He's not a starter for most teams, but like, he's probably better than some of the guys starting around the league right now.
Well, second most important position on the field, because if the quarterback goes down, they need somebody reliable, and you don't have to do what the starter does. You just have to be able to maintain, and you can become a very rich man being a backup quarterback. So tribute to Jacoby.
One of the most important Colts landed back on the injury report, and another prominent name joined him, both just minutes before kickoff. All kinds of chaos before kickoff between the Colts and Cardinals today. We'll talk about that when the Colts Squad Show returns for the final segment. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel lets me customize my betting experience how I see fit. Betting against big underdogs has been a little bit of a tough slog here lately. The Giants winning outright against the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. How about the Broncos barely surviving the Jets today? Those both great examples with big money wagers. Big lines that people are wagering on. So when you see a spread that maybe doesn't feel right, you don't have to wager. That's the beauty of FanDuel. You want to wager and play it. You don't. Anytime you want to, anytime you're feeling it, you want to make the game more exciting, go on to the app. It's quick, it's easy, and boom, you're in the game, and any game becomes more exciting with FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And back for a final time here on the Colts Squad Show. Thanks so much for joining us. Colts moved to 5-1, first 5-win team in the AFC this year as they survived the Cardinals 31-27. And Jake, I think we have to lead with you because unlike the three of us, you were there. So you are our boots on the ground, right? And here, Charvarius Ward and Drew Ogletree, I guess, run into each other, and Anthony Richardson injures himself with some exercise equipment. I mean, God, it was chaotic there. And then we didn't even get to the fact AD Mitchell was a healthy scratch today because that ended up being like the third or fourth storyline when it came to the Colts injury report.
Yeah, I thought AD Mitchell being a healthy scratch was going to be the light story of inactives up until they actually came out, just because, Alec Pierce was available this week. And so the Colts kind of got to do what they likely intended to do last week. But yeah, and then I saw Anthony Richardson was on there. I'm like, hold up. That never really fit into the plans. So turns out he gets injured, and then it's kind of just labeled as just a mishap with the resistance bands, and that he was still going to be QB3. And I was like, that doesn't really add up. So we did a little more digging, and turns out he's going to be truly inactive. And then Shane Steichen reveals afterward that he had as an orbital bone fracture and had to go to the hospital for it. No timetable on that yet. I asked about that. I will have to do more research about how long guys are normally out for that. I don't know if he'll at least be short-term IR or whatever. But for now, Riley Leonard is your backup quarterback. I've got to imagine if Anthony's going to be out any length of time that results in even short-term IR, they're going to go work some guys out, maybe even trade for someone like the Bengals were doing where they were calling around teams that had three quarterbacks. So we'll see there. And then, Charvarius Ward, that one really stinks because that guy just missed a game in week 2 with a concussion. That's such a freak, just like goofy thing to happen. I don't know what Drew Ogletree was doing, but Charvarius Ward is out there, running some defensive back drills, practicing interceptions and whatnot. And Ogletree just runs onto the field and crushes them. I'm sure Ogletree was paying attention to something else, but just such a weird, flabbergasting thing to happen twice in one day. Like, I can't recall the last time any Colts player has been injured in warmups and missed the game. And they had 2 in this same instance. I mean, Anthony's the backup. He probably wasn't going to play, but like Zach alluded to earlier, Charvarius Ward is a very, very critical piece of your offense. I mean, we saw what it looked like in week 2 against the Broncos when they didn't have him. It was horrendous. So hopefully, health first for him. Again, 2 concussions within 4 or 5 weeks. Hopefully he's going to be all right in a very short term for him. But, team-wise, you got the Chargers next week. You kind of need your top defensive back out there.
Yeah, so to defend Drew Ogletree just a little bit, because I watched the video a couple of times trying to understand what happened. It looked like he was running down the line to catch a pass from another assistant coach that was there. And they just ran the drills too close together. Just poor communication from whatever was going on there. It doesn't even look like many people were on the field at that point when it happened. Right. And they ran into each other. I had the same thing actually happen to me in high school with line drills where I ran into a guy who was a tight end. I didn't get up very fast either, like Charvarius Ward didn't in this one. So I totally understand just the mess that can happen with that. But it's unfortunate, especially because look, Richardson's probably going to go on IR with a fracture to his orbital bone. The Colts will have to get up another quarterback here to be QB3 going forward. And then with Charvarius Ward, second concussion in a month here, that might be an IR stint for him as well. And we can kind of segue this conversation into the Colts got to make a move here at corner.
It's a must.
Look, I love Jonathan Edwards. I think there's some potential there long term, but I love him as a 4 to 6 snap guy this year. I don't love him as a 60 snap guy this year. And you're really not going to get anything that can play outside corner on the free agent market. I know people are saying Stephon Gilmore, but Gilmore can't run. the way that you need him to.
He's 35.
Yeah, the scheme is
Yeah.
press man. Like Edwards was there in a lot of these press man things, and he's 6'2", running a 4.3, and he was struggling in this press man scheme. Like they need big, tall, fast corners. So they need to make a move for a corner like sooner rather than later. And then honestly, that it sounds like they're going to be big fish hunting at edge rusher as well. So we could see an active Colts team when it comes to the trade deadline, which, we really don't ever see in the NFL. The NFL is usually not the sport for active trade deadlines, but when you're a 5-1 team with the issues the Colts have on defense, especially in secondary, because I've seen some people say like, oh, wait until Jalen Jones comes back, he's going to be able to step in. I don't get the vibe that he's going to be over some of these other guys here. So I think they need to get an outside guy or two at corner because they certainly need some cornerback help. I think we're going to see a move in some regard to a veteran corner, whether it's a free agent signing, just someone big who can run, or a minor trade. Like they got to get just another body in here at this point.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, when you practice all week long, and you got to sometimes some teams will hit in practice, but you go through the rigors of practice, both the mental practice and the physical practice. One thing that'll really piss you off, getting hurt in warm-ups. And I was always a type of guy. I'm going to make myself sound really old, but I didn't even want to see the field until it was time to take snaps. When I was with the Oilers, we had two buses that would leave the hotel. There was an early bus if you wanted to get there sooner, because most times you can get there 2 hours before kick. Some guys would go early. I know our offensive lineman would go early. I would always take the second bus, and I didn't want to get there with so much time to think about stuff. I wanted to get there and play, and I didn't go out on the field in shorts to just take a tour of the stadium. That was what the walkthrough was the day before. That's why we did that. I just wanted to get there and play. So I don't help me understand why guys got to be on the field 4 hours before kick, running around in shorts when you're going to run around for 60 minutes anyway. So how much more practice do you need, or how much more warm-ups do you need before kick to make sure that you're ready? So I think, I don't know. I know I sound like the get off my lawn guy, but when it comes to pregame, that's what it is. It's pre. So just get a nice little sweat up and get ready, because I want all of my energy saved for those 60 minutes that are going to happen during the game.
I think that's all it was, though, was just getting the sweat on. I mean, if you look at what was happening, it was these guys were in shorts. It looks like Ward just did his little back pedal and then opened up to a post, and that was it, and was just going to jog it out. And then Drew Ogletree was jogging it out just to catch some passes from 10 yards away, and it ended up being just a freak thing. It's just crazy they both happened in the same day, obviously. Mm-hmm. And again, credit to Shane Steichen and this Colts team for winning a game when that happens right before you start. Again, having two players get knocked out 30 minutes before the game starts, like it's a blow when it happens in game, but you're like, you have the adrenaline going, you have everything else going. It like you can adjust on the fly in the game because that's expected. But to have it like, I don't want to say they're like tragedies to happen before the game, but to have two like big things like that happen right before the game starts, it's like, man, like to bounce back from that again against a physical and feisty Arizona team, I think speaks to the Colts. But yeah, the all eyes now go to this next game against the Chargers, where they got to get bodies in here, like especially at corner. They need to get other bodies in here that can play, because this defense is real. Like, again, we could say they got out-schemed today, but I think this is the first time they've been out-schemed all year long on defense. Like the Rams game, Stafford just was Stafford in that one. Other games, the Colts defense has played very well, in my opinion, but they can't survive getting out-schemed right now because they don't have the talent on defense. They have so many injuries on defense right now that they really just need to get some guys back or get some new bodies in here, because they just don't have the talent to run with the top teams.
Real quick for me, every indication from this team so far leading up to now is that they're going to have to, they will do something. Not only do they have to, but they actually will, because think about the defense. They've had a million injuries, but they immediately go out and make corresponding moves to plug those holes. And this now is a team that absolutely, internally, I'm sure they have championship aspirations. To them, there should be no reason why they can't. And so you cannot let these injuries derail your season. You have got to go out and do something about it. And, we saw Lou Anarumo got ran out of Cincinnati because of a lack of personnel. He was not able to be Lou Anarumo because of what he was left with in terms of the players. And so we've seen Lou absolutely cook when he's given really good ingredients to play with, so they've got to keep it up. I know it's about midseason at this point. There's only so many options, but everything they've done at this point is indicating to us that they're going to have to make some moves.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to doom and gloom, but 2 concussions in 6 weeks, even if Ward bounces back quickly, that's serious stuff. 2 in 6 weeks is a lot. That's not going to be
this
easy.
Week, and I don't think they're going to have him for at least the next 2 weeks, but I think it might be an IR stint for him.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. Thanks for joining us on the Colts Squad Show. We're your place for live game recaps following each and every Colts game this season. But we'll have a Wednesday show, too, coming up at 9 o'clock. We'll be back with you on Wednesday to recap the injury report and first practice of the week and get you set for the Chargers. But until then, follow us on Locked On Colts on socials and check out our other great content on YouTube and TikTok. And we'll see you next time right here on the Colts Squad Show.